Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ethan live and local for Pickup Country 104.9 FM 2026 Election Connection. Your vote matters, and because it does, we are bringing you live coverage tonight of the State Legislative Candidate Forum. Typically, we don't do a lot in the primaries, but there are a lot more candidates showing interest in elections this year, so we're going to be bringing you a series of events in partnership with local community folks that are putting them on. WSKV is not in charge of any of these events. We are simply operating in support and wanting to get the word out about what these candidates believe and what makes them strong candidates, strong picks, and why they would be worth you taking time out of your schedule to go vote for them on primary day. Coming up really quickly. Tonight, we are going to be featuring the State House District 91 Republican candidates, Darrell Billings and Jeff Hensley, and State Senate District 30 candidates, Brandon Smith and Bill Wesley. So, again, the candidates are arriving. We've got, I think, 2 of the 4 on site. The scheduled start time was 6:30. They said it was going to slide to 6:35, but looking here as folks are arriving, I'm imagining it's going to be closer to 6:40, 6:45. But just wanted to check in with you and let you know that you're at the right place for the broadcast tonight. So hang out, and we'll get started shortly. All right, folks, we are about to begin. Candidates are taking the stage at this time, so they are trying to keep this 6:35 time, so we're getting ready to join broadcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us freely assembled here today, Lord, as like-minded people, Lord, and concerned citizens and voters, Father God. I ask that you be with each and every one in this room, Father, that you would give the candidates clarity, wisdom, and integrity, Father God, as they answer your questions and approach this potential leadership positions, Father God. I ask you be with each and every one in this room, that they would be attentive, Lord, and that serving you and making a decision that would honor and glorify you would be on their minds. Father God, we ask this in your precious and holy name. Amen. Amen. Now,
ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll let you do this.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Estill and Powell County. Powell counties. My name is Michael Frazier, and I am a legislative liaison for Americans for Prosperity, and also for the Kentucky Student Rights Coalition as their executive director. My role in Frankfort has been defending free speech, free expression, free thought, ending DEI, and ensuring that illegal immigrants do not have in-state tuition over Kentucky students. I've had the great pleasure and honor to work with both the House and also the Senate as a native Powell County from Little Hargrets Creek. Tonight, you join us for a debate between State Representative Darrell Billings and his opponent Jeff Hensley, and State Senate Senator Brandon Smith and Bill Wesley. As you can see, only two candidates have shown up to the forum tonight, Mr. Darrell Billings and Senator Brandon Smith. All candidates were notified beforehand. Thank you. All candidates were notified beforehand of all of the forum, the questions, the rules, the time, and provided the questions beforehand. All questions were looked at based upon data from Powell and Estill counties. They were also coordinated based upon giving each candidate original responses. They were not taken from any candidate platform, nor from any situation in Frankfort or campaign ad. They're original questions that were distributed so that each and every citizen in Powell and Estill counties can hear an original answer. Tonight, candidates will open up with a 2-minute opening and have 1 minute each to respond to each question, and then we'll close tonight with a 3-minute closing by each candidate. Tonight, according to the Legislative Ethics Commission, I do need to give a disclaimer that I have not funded this forum. I am here as a volunteer, and nor has any candidate been paid to be at this forum. Correct, candidates?
That's correct.
Thank you very much. So, candidates, if you're willing, shall we make a start? Well, fantastic. If you don't mind, Mr. Billings, you have 2 minutes to give us your opening.
You'll get your first warning for each statement and answer at 30 seconds, just
Thank you.
for information.
First of all, thank you to the Estill County Republican Party and the Powell County Republican Party for hosting this event. I can't think of a better situation to be in as a candidate to let the voters of Estill County, Powell County, and Madison County to know their candidates, and thank you very much for having that. With the exception of a short stay in the military, I've spent my entire life in the 91st District. I'm a farmer, a business owner, a grandfather, and a conservative Christian. I'm one of four boys. All three of my brothers still reside in the 91st District, work, live in the 91st District. My father was a 20-year law enforcement veteran, so backing the blue is something that will always be in my foresight. My mother, who is with us tonight, is a 33-year retired school educator, so backing public schools will always be something that will always be one of my priorities, and public education as well. I've been married to my wife Jennifer we will celebrate our 40th anniversary in July. So she's also a 30-year educator. So very pleased to be a part of not only being able to represent the 91st District, but I've had a history of lifetime public service. I spent 8 years as chairman of the Kentucky High School Athletic Association, where one of the greatest accomplishments we had during my tenure was keeping boys in boys sports and girls in girls sports. We were able to do that when I was chairman of that board. I spent 8 years as chairman of the Kentucky FFA Foundation, where we raise millions of dollars for agriculture and vocational agriculture. I spent 8 years on the Markham Wallace Hospital Board, so understanding the importance of rural health care is something we will always consider. As a lifelong conservative, we will continue to support what is best for the 91st District.
Thank you. Senator Smith, please.
First, Michael, you and Taylor, thank you all for hosting us and bringing us here this evening. My name is Brandon Smith, and I am a family man first. My family is important, and I think most of you all know us. You'll see them here with us, and so I am a husband first, and my beautiful wife is here, and I think a lot of people around my office or our campaign very familiar with Laurel. And if you'll see all the crowd back there is my children. I'm blessed, I have 6 children, and if you followed us on any sort of social media, you'll see our children's very talented, like the Von Trapps. They're usually singing or performing some function at church, which brings us to our faith. We have, our house lives it. Ours is a house that serves the Lord, and we're very proud that we're grounded with that, which helps lead over from being a family official to being an elected official that's very grounded. I first got elected in 1993 as a commissioner, where my focus then was really city issues, making us the toughest anti-littering laws in the state of Kentucky, enhanced 911 so that children were not burning up in house fires, dialing a number that didn't exist, things like potholes and others, to moving forward to being in the House of Representatives and the Senate, where I championed stuff like the Affordable Housing Credit or the Endow Kentucky or iCare to let your family members be able to get insurance if they have a small pharmacy. We worked on self-determination to allow families to select a level of care if you had suffered a traumatic brain injury. To the Senate, where we led stuff like the 20-week abortion ban, my Senate Bill 5 in 2017 to protect children before Roe v. Wade was overturned, or the ban that they had for us to override where you could actually carry a weapon for concealed and carry and not have to be a criminal to do it. So we have a history of elected official accomplishments that we encourage people to go back and look at, and we're very pleased to be here tonight to discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And since 2 candidates appear, we're just going to take the questions in order, 1 minute each, okay? And we'll go in order. Sound good?
Okay.
All right. Mr. Billings, we start with you. In your view, what is the single most important issue facing Estill and Powell counties today, and what is the first legislative action you would take to address it?
I think that can be summed up in one word, and that's infrastructure. I think the infrastructure in both of our communities, especially Powell and Estill County, has been forgotten for a long time. Not that it's bad, it just needs to continually be enhanced. So water and sewer infrastructure would be something that I think is first and foremost. I really believe that infrastructure not only generates small business, it generates tourism growth, it generates manufacturing growth, and without that infrastructure, I think we will continue to struggle in our communities. Again, it's one of those projects that can't just be taken seriously when something goes wrong. It's something we need to look at each and every legislative session, and there needs to be dollars be brought back to these communities that revolve around infrastructure.
Thank you. Senator Smith, same question.
Yeah, so this question can be answered on many different levels. If you ask a county judge, he may have a different answer than I, and those are going to change in time. Right now, the most important thing that we have in Estill County is really going to be the water. Being able to have access to water, again, with the infrastructure, and having access to an industrial park, these are things that we've got to overcome. And that's things we put in the budget to address right now. Estill County is a little bit different. The biggest issue pushing them for us was the children. And I think almost every elected official, if you ask them why they're doing this, they're going to tell you it's their children. The school falling down around our children rose to a level that it could not be ignored. So those were the most critical issues that we dealt with. And we'll get into more different layers of issues here, but those were the 2 that were on my desk this year that demanded immediate attention.
Thank you, Senator. Next question, economy, jobs, and cost of living. What is your specific economic plan to improve wages, create jobs, and lower the cost of living for working families in Powell and Estill counties? Mr. Billings.
Again, I think it's back to infrastructure. I really think that before we can actually attract tourism, before we can attract manufacturing, before we can attract small businesses, which in turn will help our general economy, we've got to make sure that our infrastructure is solid. Water and sewer issues, school issues, those are all part of that infrastructure program. I really believe that we've overlooked that for many years in our district. And I think that needs to be a continual part of our focus going forward. Whether it's child care when it comes to helping out some of our families, it could be housing, but all of that still revolts back to infrastructure. We've got to first plan our base before we can start building around it. The last I looked, before you built a home, you had to make sure the foundation was pretty solid.
Thank you. Senator Smith.
Yes, for me, it's going to be along the same lines, is that you have to have an environment that's friendly for business. It doesn't matter with the other troubles we have. You have to have a tax base and a tax structure that incentivizes businesses to want to come to your state and be able to make money. And you're looking at two people. You're looking at the corporations that come and their executives. So things as simple as having an airport for executives to come and having an industrial place for them to be there and a tax structure by which they can make money. With all that said, the number one thing our judges get asked when they get a call is, how much is your power rate? They want to know what you're paying for power, because most of the jobs today can overcome all the other obstacles, but they can't overcome a power rate that's so high that they've got to go searching for it somewhere else. So power is going to be one of the key things to it, but having a favorable environment that brings businesses in is our top goal.
Candidates, I appreciate that answer, but can I have something, let's put 30 seconds on the clock and do something more specific. When you talk about infrastructure, Mr. Billings, are you talking about an infrastructure roads bill to bring in the economy? And Senator Smith, are you talking about doing something like data centers? Give us a specific piece of example that you would actually do to bring in jobs in Powell and Estill counties. 30 seconds, Mr. Billings.
Well, I think specifically to bring in jobs, the power rate is definitely one. I don't think you can attract any manufacturer to come to Estill County, to come to Powell County, unless you can ensure them that they have the ability and the access to power. Then secondly, of course, would be the access to and from. Whether it's going back to the rail, or whether it's going back to increasing the road between the Mountain Parkway and the I-75 in Madison County. I've talked several years about the danger of that road between Powell and Estill County. Those are all part of that infrastructure that has to be done to actually bring that manufacturing to our district.
Thank you. Senator Smith.
Yeah, if you're going to look at specific industries, the medical community has grown, which we've seen in the Medicaid oversight, or what's called MOAB. It's one of the largest growing sectors in America. So looking at how we can place our region into this field of either manufacturing, biometrics, creating the different 3D printed valves and stuff, that's a part for us. Aviation is another huge aspect of growth for the state of Kentucky. And nobody owns this type of technology right now, but we could. And we've had previous governors talk about it, and it's quiet now. But I think that these are places that we could really thrive in these two specific industries, and there'll be more for later. But that's where I think we need to be putting our money and our attention on two types of industry I think can deliver for us.
Gentlemen, thank you. On to our next question. The industries you name offer strong-term, long growth potential for our region. But what tax, workforce, or regulatory reforms would you support to help local businesses grow and hire? If you don't mind, if we can do this in reverse order. Senator Smith.
Yes, I think the biggest thing, again, we talk about affordability to be able to be here. Businesses have to be able to make money. And so if you don't have a tax structure at the statewide level that's going to make it attractive for them to come, they're not. So that's a starting point. And we've seen what we're doing with the income tax to bring it down, but there's also other incentives that could be added to it to recruit industries. Now, we've seen the cookie factories before in the past where they take the 5-year incentives and then they leave. So recruiting weak industries is not a plan for Kentucky. So we take that same initiative and we go after homegrown businesses. We go after our technology, our colleges, our training, and these tech skills, and begin to build out and flesh out based upon locals that have been able to get into the type of technology and the business opportunities that we've talked about here so far, but that all happens with a friendly rate, a good business climate, and affordable power.
Thank you, Senator Smith. Mr. Billings, same question, please.
I think small business growth is without question where you have to start. And small business growth can come in a lot of different ways. whether it's child care assistance for some of our small business employers, whether it's a tax incentive. I think it's ironic that we'll allow a governor or we'll allow even our legislature to offer millions of dollars of tax incentives for someone that could come in and take a 5-year plan and skip and run. I think if we put that same forward thinking into our small business growth in communities like Powell and Estill counties, that would bring our workforce here is phenomenal. Our local craftsmanship, just the overall workforce in Powell and Estill County is phenomenal. And I don't think we have an opportunity to allow those small businesses to get in on the ground level and then to grow that business. As most folks know, the first 2 or 3 years of a small business is the toughest. And those tax incentives are something we might want to work on when it comes to small business growth. I really believe that is the start of our growth, is in the small business sector.
Mr. Billings, thank you. Gentlemen, if we may switch gears and talk about agricultural land use and rural character. How would you protect farmland, support family farms, and attract responsible growth without undermining local landowners or the rural character of our communities? Senator Smith.
Well, this is going to be something for me that starts at the local level, and that's what our community wants to have. So, example, we're seeing a time now we have the least amount of people with a farm in the United States. There's less farmers than we've ever seen in our lifetime for a reason. Our county needs to decide on if we want to promote that type of environment where we have farmers. Do we want to have people that are in this industry? And it comes with control. You're going to have zoning and ordinances and restrictions, and people are going to have to set that. Now, county officials, locals, Farm Bureau, you have a lot of different groups out there. The Nature Conservancy all play a role, and I believe they have to have a say. I'd rather see us do this at a local level and decide on what we want our community to look like than to have somebody outside or these outside NGOs and groups pushing their way in, wanting to either sue us or tell us how we can use our land or taking certain parts of land off use that we want it for. That has to be a local decision, and this is the way to get it done, but it also requires zoning and restrictions and things sometimes people don't like.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Billings.
I would concur. I think that's a local decision. I think the state legislature needs to stay out of local decisions when it comes to agricultural-based properties. The agricultural industry has struggled across Kentucky. It's dwindling every day. We've had some attempts in our legislature with House Bill 417 that offers some low-interest funding to keep farmland as farmland, but I still think those have to be local decisions. I really believe that the local agricultural industry, especially when you get into Powell and Madison County, Estill County, is strong, extremely strong. And I think our community has said we want local agriculture, but I think it needs to be a local decision. Through our Ag Development Board and our Ag Finance Board, there's a million different ways we can help maintain agricultural farmland and agricultural property. Now, I do not want to keep a family from making a lifetime sale if that's their decision. But again, I think that's a local decision that state legislature and state government needs to stay out of.
Gentlemen, thank you. Speaking on that local control, zoning, and policy, how do you balance local control with the need to increase housing supply, affordability, property right protections, and reasonable development? Senator Smith.
Well, the biggest thing is we had a bill this year to help us deal with some of the housing in communities and making that available for people so you don't have to take farmland and turn that into residential housing. If you have houses in your community that need to be updated or repaired, we tried that with a bill this year. I created the Affordable Housing Trust many years ago actually now, to be able to give us a funding source to be able to help families get into these homes and make it affordable for them. So in an area that has a lot of houses in a city, they're going to face different issues than we're going to have in a rural area. But if you have old homes in neighborhoods that are dilapidated, torn down, they're vacant, they can't find a landowner, we need to be able to provide our cities and counties with a mechanism to be able to either take these down and build back in this space, or to refurbish them, to put this back in the market for a growing economy and families we want to come into our county.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Billings.
I'm going to sound like a broken record. Housing and zoning decisions need to be local. They need to be controlled by our mayors, by our councils, by our county judges and our fiscal courts that understand what's best for their communities. However, I do think there are ways we can assist on a state level by making sure those infrastructure needs, those road needs, those type needs are taken care of so that we can continue to take properties that want to be used as developmental properties, and we can continue to let individual communities expand on that. Again, a local decision that needs to be taken care of on a local level. And again, I'll say again, once again, the state government needs to stay out of those type decisions, but make it easier for local governments to be able to build those housing situations and to make those properties more affordable.
You don't mind 30 seconds on the clock, please? If I may, just a follow-up question on this. In the House, that there were three bills filed, HB 617 and 618, then also 530, and also rolled into SB 9, by right development, third-party inspectors, and also to ensure that that 52 counties don't have inconsistent regulation or arbitrary regulation. Do you support, just 30 seconds, do you support that the state step in with those bills to ensure that there is by right development, third-party inspectors, and non-arbitrary zoning policies in Kentucky? Mr. Billings.
I'm against anything that's arbitrary. First of all, make that perfectly clear. Yes, we need to have a set of guidelines, but those guidelines need to be put in touch with local communities, because the same guideline that happens in Jefferson County doesn't necessarily bode well in Estill County, and vice versa. So yes, I would be in support of making sure that there's nothing arbitrary about our housing development. There's nothing arbitrary about our zoning requirements. Those should not be arbitrary in any shape, form, or fashion.
Thank you, Mr. Billings. Senator Smith.
Yeah, I would encourage caution here and to be thoughtful about this, because the state's not always the answer. I think this is so personal for many of us. You've got people that are renters, the tourists that come in. You've got people that own the Airbnbs. You've got businesses that are affected by it. You've got government officials that want to be involved for zoning. And then you've got your business community that wants to see these filled, and the tax base that comes with that. This year, it came very late in the session with a lot of changes, amendments, and stuff that I felt like deserved due diligence, but it raises a great question, and the state does need to play a role, but we need to get local buy-in. This is something that there's so many aspects and metrics to it that can affect each community on its own. So we need to get more input from these organizations, these individuals, the renters, the tourists, the owners, before we can make a decision at the state level that I can feel comfortable with. But I will say we're close. I think this summer will bring forth some real movement in this particular field in a positive direction.
Thank you, Senator. And if you don't mind, we're going to get back on track and start with Mr. Billings. And by the way, I am keeping track on who answers first, how often. Mr. Billings, getting into the discussion of short-term rentals, or quote-unquote Airbnbs, specifically and especially for Powell County, but also here in Estill County too, how should short-term rentals and tourism housing be balanced with the need for local housing stock and local control?
Well, again, it needs to be local control. I think, again, those Airbnb and local rentals are affected differently in Powell and Estill County than they perhaps are in Fayette County or perhaps in northern Kentucky in the Golden Triangle. I really believe that we need to be careful because of the need for housing and affordable housing in our area, that those Airbnbs are still a viable part of an investment community that chooses to go that route and are able to make those very profitable. So I am not against the Airbnb and the short-term rental. I do think, however, though, that our local governments need to be involved in how those are taxed, how they're collected on, how they're appraised, how the property taxes are paid on them. Those all need to be a part of that process. So to say that I am pro-Airbnb or anti-Airbnb, yeah, it continues to be a huge part of our economy and our tourism economy in both communities. But we need to keep in our vision that affordable housing is also a part of our growth and our continued growth in these communities.
Thank you, Mr. Billings. Senator Smith.
Yes, I'm always going to err on the side of the property owner, the person that's their property and what their rights for wanting to make money with it. This could be something that's been in their family for years. It could be a change in their financial circumstance. It could be something the community's asked them to do. So I think I always urge caution when you look at stepping in and telling somebody what they can and cannot do with their property. There are deserts out there, what we call, that they have no rental rooms. They don't have hotels, they don't have the motels, and they're just what they call tourism deserts. And those areas are definitely going to need different input for what we need to encourage growth there. But then when you get overgrowth, there's other problems on the other side. I think this is going to be a big issue. It's something that's going to take several people that's going to have to sit at the table. But I always want to make sure that that owner that they have a seat at the table for whatever we do, and I do believe that's going to happen over the summer with some positive outcomes for it.
Thank you, Senator. Now let's switch gears to roads, water, broadband, and state infrastructure, shall we? Mr. Billings, what are your top infrastructure priorities for Powell and Estill counties, and how will you ensure our counties receive fair state funding compared to large urban regions?
Well, again, I'm going to say I mentioned the road project between the Mountain Parkway and I-75. I don't know the exact amount of deaths that occur on that road, but it's been a problem since I was a young man driving back and forth to Eastern Kentucky University through school. So that roadway is definitely in need of some attention. That would be something I would definitely want to be involved in and be a part of. Now, when it comes to roads, I'm of the belief that our county judge and our magistrates and our road departments within our communities understand better what they need to do with roads than I do. And as a state representative or a state senator, it's not my job to tell them what roads they need done. We would expect that to come from them, and then it's our job to make sure that we try to help and assist in that growth. But that road project between the Mountain Parkway and I-75 in Richmond is definitely a project that I would love to see committed and completed during my tenure as the next state representative.
Thank you, sir. Senator Smith, please.
So our roads are an issue that we handle with our ad districts, turning in ratings on certain roads, the greatest needs coming forward to us, so we can go through that later. But I want to speak on broadband because I think that's critical for us. The speed of business and the climate that brings them in needs to be a speed of about a gigasphere. That's the speed of the space shuttle in orbit. That's instant streaming, and this is what business demands that we have to have. We spent $1 billion with the broadband office, to really expand these services across rural Kentucky. And that's a start, but only a drop in the bucket. If we can focus on getting an affordable utility rate, having access and internet streaming at a level that business has to have for the future, airports and our industrial parks, then I don't think there's anything that's going to hold us back from a future we've always talked about, but we've not had anybody lead us there. This is what it looks like for our community to move to the next level.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Billings, this will be at least for this segment, the last one. You start first. If we can switch gears to education, higher education, and ending DEI. What legislative challenges would you support regarding curriculum transparency, parental rights, higher education accountability, free speech protections, and ending DEI initiatives in K-12 schools and public universities? Mr. Billings.
First of all, I don't think DEI is a problem in Powell and Estill County. We've done a great job in policing that ourselves, but that is something that does need to be expanded on a statewide basis. The $1.7 billion budget that the Kentucky Department of Education controls is broken. We need to put more money back into local control of our school districts. I think that the superintendent of Estill County Schools and the superintendent of Powell County Schools and the superintendent of Madison County Schools can actually administer that $1.7 billion a heck of a lot better than I think they're doing in Frankfort. And I'm being very straight with that. I'm not trying to point fingers, but a $1.7 billion KDE budget to me is just unthought of. And I'm coming from a family of public educators, so I'm not against public education by any stretch of the imagination, but we need to do a better job administering that and do a better job of teaching in our school systems and getting back to the old, I sound like a broken record, of reading, writing, and arithmetic, the 3 R's.
Thank you, Mr. Billings. Senator Smith, please.
Well, I think DEI should DIE. I think it should go away. I think that if you look at nowadays, I don't think many of us my age would have ever thought that we would have to defend our nation's founding in its classrooms where we're losing the battle, that we've got our 250-year celebration. I was just at the Gap and spoke about the history of Kentucky as we broke away from Virginia as Fincastle, and look at the rich heritage, and to have that attacked every day in our classroom. As chairman of the library boards for the state, I will tell you that as we took the cell phones and stuff out of classrooms, what we saw was remarkable. We saw a 43 to 52% increase in children going to the library, checking out a book, sitting with other children, and going over and having the same experience we did socializing as opposed to looking at these phones all the time. So that shows you real results inside the classrooms. We tried to address that with the inappropriate activity that was happening between teachers and their students with their phones. But there are some legitimate reasons that were brought up to us for a coach that maybe reach out to a student or other issues, but I do see that we're stepping out into space where it's needed because this has gotten so far out of hand.
Thank you, Senator. And again, we'll be starting back with you for the next 3 questions. And our first point is about AI, technology, energy, and data centers. Do you support recruiting AI and data center investment into Kentucky and the district? And how do you see technology investment creating jobs and opportunities for our region? Senator Smith.
What I support is Kentucky getting surplus power, an affordable, competitive power rate, and then having our utilities step forward with that and have surplus power, because the state right now that has surplus power is a state that's on fire. People are looking for that extra power. If that happens to be a data or AI center, then I think that could be regional specific. Now, while I think they're great, I think there's a lot of room in there and there's going to be jobs and technology. What attracts it to me may not be attractive to some others, but it's the repair side of that. So while I may not necessarily want a data center, I would definitely want to have a center in my community that repaired all those hundreds of thousands of machines and capacitors and diodes that were in that building working, that have to have people fix those. And so that is where I think Kentucky can use our community college system, our techs, or even what we've seen some of our jails, to have people turn their life around, specialize in this type of work, and have those jobs here making $60,000, $70,000 a year or $100,000, and have it here in our region. So I think there's a role for them, but I would like to see us focus more on the repair and tech side of it, and not every county is going to want one of these.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Billings.
I would agree with the senator. Without question, we want that. My only concern with that is I do not want that cost to be shifted to the end user, that being our taxpayer. That is my biggest fear about data centers and AIs, that we attract that under the guise of jobs and job creation and alternative ways of sending folks down that path, and then ultimately our taxpayer is the end result. They're the end payer of that. So that would be the only thing. I know we had a bill in the U.S. in the State House this year that Representative Bray didn't pass, but it probably will get some traction this summer regarding that. As long as the end user, our taxpayer, is not the funder for that, I definitely would think our individual communities could find a way to make that work.
Mr. Billings, thank you. What protections should be in place to ensure local ratepayers do not bear the cost of new generation, transmission, or infrastructure built to serve large industrial users such as data centers? Senator Smith.
As chairman of Natural Resources, we've spent a lot of time on this. What you do is you take the data center and you put them as a standalone. As long as they stay on their site, they're not going to get involved in a tariff violation. So you have a big company comes in and they need 200 megawatts. Have them generate that on their site, so they can get gas turbines, they can find gas lines, use Kentucky gas, they can do wind, solar, whatever they like to. But as long as they stay on their property, on their site, and they can generate much cheaper without getting hit with the big fuel adjustment charges and things that very often wreck somebody's bottom line. That way it never gets shifted over to the ratepayer, and you don't have what happened in the western part of the state when the smelters had to do the unwind, and that got pushed out onto the general public. But if you're doing a repair center, because the job growth and economic development, then the power company should do an EDR and be involved, because the outcome for that in the community, the technology, the techs it brings, the children they bring into a region, that's significant and then a positive growth. So I think this is where you split the hair. You have a chance to have it there, but it's not on the ratepayer. Let them self-generate. But outside of job creation, we need to be engaged. We need to have those jobs.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Billings.
I think I jumped my answer to this question from the previous question, but again, the end taxpayer. Ultimately, I'm all for that technology. As long as that particular AI center or that data center can generate their own power grid, they can do whatever they need to do to contain themselves and fund themselves, I'm all about that. However, the end taxpayer, the citizens, the 45,000 citizens of the 91st District, is my number one concern. And as long as that's not a part of that, I would advocate for those type job growth and job opportunities in any county in Kentucky, much less the 91st District.
Thank you, sir. Switching gears. Do you support reforming the current jail funding model, including the 60-day reimbursement period? And what reforms would you support for inmate education, treatment, workforce training, and reentry? Senator Smith.
Actually, We did. We just increased the per diem for it. But I will give Powell County credit because they brought some really interesting data to my office about how that we can reimagine what's happening in our jails and use this time when somebody's incarcerated for a positive measure. I just simply given an idea of having a person learn a tech skill, learn how to work on a specific Starlink or Apple or some sort of an antminer and have them come out to find a job. Taking this and having the money there so this time's not wasted for them to come out with a trade skill. Because you'll wait on a plumber, you'll wait on somebody to come for your TV, but unfortunately we just go to the emergency room for people that want to go to their doctor. But we know there's a drastic need for these type of services here. Why waste this time? We're paying for this individual to be there. I think you're going to see us do more in this field because we're learning so much more about it because of the work that Powell County's done on this.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Billings.
He stole my thunder. Powell County has done a wonderful job with that. Our Powell County judicial system, our detention center has done an excellent job of sending young men and women out of the facility that are prepared to do things in their community so they're not repeat offenders. And that's one of the things I think we need to continue to advocate for going forward. I know you yourself have been very involved in that from our Powell County perspective, and we've seen a local jailer do a great job with that. The state funding needs some help. We do need some assistance in the per diem on that. We're putting our small county jails that have done a good job and invested millions of dollars in their facilities, we're now putting them at risk because of that per diem funding. So I think that really needs to be looked at, and some of the medical costs and those things are also a part of that jail funding, that jail renovation. So those are things that definitely need to be on the agenda for communities like Powell and Madison that have an existing jail. Estill does not, but let's hope that's just around the corner.
Thank you. And for reference for our viewers that may be watching, HB 5, which was passed this session, which passed unanimously from both chambers and signed by the governor, was an initiative started in Powell County, Kentucky to do vocational training and to ensure that we take low-level offenders, because it takes more to incarcerate them than to train them.
That's right.
And do the largest prison reform in Kentucky history, and it started right in this district.
And 90% of these people are going to be getting out of jail anyhow. So I
Yes,
think
sir.
it's smart to bet on giving them a chance. So well done.
Number 12, tax policy. Do you support raising the gas tax to address transportation and infrastructure funding needs? Please explain your approach. Mr. Billings.
Absolutely not. 40% of our full-time worker in the 91st district commutes to work. I think our gas tax is more than ample. I do think we're overfunding road projects. If we can ever get a hold of a governor that's willing to complete road projects rather than just put them on a road budget and never fund them, I would be more in favor of that. But as far as favoring a gas tax increase, absolutely not. I think we just need to do a better job of completing the projects that we put on the books. We've done a poor job of that. And like I said, 40% of our workforce in Powell and Estill counties commute to work. So a gas tax is definitely a drain on that economy, that personal economy. So I would not advocate for a gas tax increase in any shape, form, or fashion. But I would advocate to see that funding is done. It's not overfunded as it is now. We complete projects instead of just trying to fund projects and put them on a list and wait for decades for them to be completed.
Thank you, Mr. Billings. Senator Smith, please.
So I don't support a gas tax, but I think we do have to be thoughtful about this. So we get federal money and then there's state, and most first-year administrations pretty much blank the state and depend on federal money. But we do need to realize that these road projects, I think all of us in this room are going to think about a road at home we know that needs to be taken care of. I have roads in our district that have to get a federal waiver so the school bus can get through with children on it because the road's not wide enough or the bridge isn't sufficient. Those come to us from CRAD, and we send those up in those orders, but the governor can pull out before he wants to. I think we should look at maybe putting a floor on the bottom of this and freezing some of this tax and taking up the federal part, removing the 24% off the top, 18% off the top, getting some federal relief for us so we still have our projects. We can still get in and fix these roads that you know have to be done. It's a shame that any child should have to be on a road that we get a federal waiver to allow them there. So we are going to have money to do that, and this is where it comes from. So I think we need to find a balance. And so I say we take it off the federal side, have them suspend this for a year or two until we can catch our breath and get caught up. And last thing is I don't think once the General Assembly sends our road projects over to the governor, no governor should be able to take those out of line.
Senator, thank you. Switching gears to healthcare. Healthcare access remains a major concern in Powell and Esther counties. What is your plan to improve access to affordable healthcare, mental health services, and provider availability, and what changes, if any, would you support to Kentucky's Certificate of Need law, or CON laws, to expand access while protecting local hospitals and providers? Mr. Billings.
Well, for starters, $800 million in fraud in our Kentucky healthcare system. That's a great place to start. I think we have a problem there. It's 30% of our state budget. We need to take a real hard look at that. And when it comes to things like ambulatory care, dialysis, mental health, imaging, those are things we should be able to take to our local hospitals. Serving on a local hospital board here in Estill County, I saw the need for rural health. I saw the lives it saved, the economy it generated. Now, I'm for market capitalism, but I'll be very honest with you. Our healthcare system as it is now is unsustainable. It was never designed to be the way it is now. It was designed to push us toward private insurance. I think we need to do a better job with that. But we also need to make sure that our local hospital systems are very, very well much a part of that process. And things like those 4 items I just mentioned to you are things we could start with in regards to Certificate of Need.
Thank you. Senator Smith, please.
So our hospitals in our region here, unfortunately, because we have so much indigent, they struggle to get to the level of a lot of services many of us would want to have here. And so you see the out-migration of folks going to Lexington or Louisville, which is something that needs to be stopped. That level of care does not need to be just for those that can afford it. It needs to be for everybody that lives in this region. So a hospital has to be able to make money. They have to be able to have the funds that they can offset what they're losing on indigent care, and they have DISH funding and other sources for that. But we need to have them to be in a situation where they can bring in new services, new machines, new MRIs and scans that we need here for our family. And in order to do that, we have to go through and make sure they have an environment that is favorable for them to be able to be successful. We did see some abuse this year. I think it was shocking for most of us. And I think if you look at a lot of those in the hospital field, they were shocked at some of that went on as we were. So that's going to require further investigation, but I live it. My oldest son's a doctor. He's from Hazard, Kentucky, and he's at the Jewish hospital finishing up his specialty, and he'll come back to Eastern Kentucky. My middle son is graduating nursing school next week, and my daughter, who's here, works at the hospital. So we're very much recipients of what happens when you have a strong medical community in our district, and we want to make sure it's there, but it has to be balanced, and it has to be fair.
Thank you, Senator. And Mr. Billings, the last question starting out for this round. Okay. Is there any circumstance under which you would support raising the sales tax, whether broadly or on specific categories, to meet the state or local budget needs? Additionally, Kentucky has undertaken a long-term initiative to reduce and ultimately eliminate the state income tax. Do you support that initiative? And in your view, is the Commonwealth moving too quickly, too slowly, or at the appropriate pace? And gentlemen, since you two are the only candidates, that is essentially 2 questions rolled into once. Taylor, if we can put 2 minutes on the clock, please. Starting with you.
I was going to ask for that. Thank you very much. First of all, I think we're moving at a great speed when it comes to removing income tax. It takes us about $700 million a year to reduce 0.5% of income tax in Kentucky. Now, that generated $3.5 billion to Kentucky taxpayers over the past 4 or 5 years. So I think we're moving at the right pace. I'd love to see that happen. Now, I've heard a lot of stories about increasing sales tax to offset property tax and some of these other things. I'm all for that. Show me a way. But I don't think sales tax is the answer. I saw an article that I'd read that it was done by a group of business folks that had said it would take near 13% in a sales tax rate to offset some of the losses we would take in terms of losing other taxes. I don't think the average working family can sustain a 13% sales tax rate on an automobile, a washer, a dryer, a lawnmower, their kids' clothing. So no, I would not advocate for an increase in our sales tax. I think we're open to finding alternatives, and I do like the fact of eliminating our income tax. I think the legislature has done a great job with that. I think they need to continue to explore that. Maybe we need to throttle it back for a year or so and get our breath and get caught up on that. But I think we're heading in the right direction. Now, we've seen some states around us that have tried to do that and to disastrous effects. State of Kansas is a great example. They're literally in complete disarray because of trying to do something very similar to that. I think we need to be very careful about what we do with that. But I think removing the income tax is definitely a start in the right direction. Increasing sales tax is not even an option, in my opinion. But again, there may be a smarter fiduciary than I, and if that's the case, I would be open to look at that. But I think we need to be very careful with that going forward. But eliminating the income tax is definitely headed in the right direction.
Mr. Billings, thank you. Senator Smith, 2 minutes.
So this is always an exciting one because I think a lot of us have traveled and we've seen other states and we ask ourselves, well, what are they doing? And Tennessee pops to mind. And so you think they have, their towns are clean, they seem to have a bustling economy. What are they doing? So being on A&R for the years I was, you get a chance to really dive in as a want and look and see. So I'm open to a lot of different things. The problem with it is we're working in the confines of an older model. Ours is a very antiquated tax structure, and they say to me all the time, it's kind of like a 1940s car that you're trying to get to go highway speeds of today. So I wish it would go faster often, but I understand if you go like what happened in Kansas, they could be disastrous for us. But I would be open to looking at the sales tax if you dropped off all services. Because the thing that always sticks out in my mind from working on budgets is that we have so much cash economy out there. You have people in our community that are here that probably should be looked at, but it's all cash. They work for cash, they pay cash for where they live and room and board, they pay cash for everything they do, but they use our parks, they use our hospitals, they use our schools. And so there's really no way for us to pick these up in the system, yet all of us are carrying the weight for that. I think there has to be a better answer. I saw one figure one time that said Lexington alone, if you did like say a fair tax or something in this area, that you would pick up almost 300,000 individuals overnight that would all of a sudden start paying into the tax rolls for our parks, hospitals, schools, et cetera. So I'm always open, but it has to work for me in favor of growth for the community and fairness for the consumer and the people paying these taxes. But I think that Kentucky is on track. You've seen us shake things up. We've started closing on states that we all admire, and pretty soon we expect to take the lead. But it's going to take this out of the box thinking, and if the numbers are there and I can see it, then I'm open to supporting that.
Thank you, Senator. And again, we're back starting with you. In 1 minute. Yes, ma'am. Growing up and having a mother on addiction, we relied in Powell, Estill, and Madison counties on peer support, including in peer counselors and those who are going to our jails, into our community, helping families in need, helping families with cases law. One particular person that comes to mind is Mama Nell, that lived across the street above me on Airport Road. Janelle Brewer with Spark Ministry. This year, the General Assembly did pass more licensing reforms, including with peer support. So this question, Senator Smith, what licensing, reimbursement, or regulatory reforms would you support to make it easier for advocates, peer support professionals, and healthcare providers to serve families in our region, either from a substance abuse or a regular healthcare position? 1 minute, please.
Well, for us, I mean, obviously removing the barriers that prevent people from coming into that. And that can be something as simple as transportation, having adequate transportation to someplace. Or we had mentioned earlier, we were talking about regional compared to local, how far you might have to travel for one person. That may not be that big of a deal for one family, but it could be for others. And having areas where we have in the eastern part of the state where you have to get waivers because you don't have the personnel in there. In fact, you use as an example to have a psychologist or psychiatry available for high school students in rural areas. So if they don't have them, they get a waiver, which means we're doing the best we can, but we don't bring anybody in. It takes money to get individuals like that to move into rural parts or family or other reasons we got there. So we're going to have to remove the barriers, and that can be the funding that it takes to bring these individuals into the rural parts or where they're needed. You can have areas in cities where they have more than enough, and then you have, again, as we mentioned, deserts and rural parts of the state where you have healthcare needs that are not being met. So removing the barriers, funding what needs to be brought in this area like that, and then finding individuals that are willing to come in through, we've seen Teach America and just other programs that have moved there to do good, and then they've stayed for other issues. We need to look at every a means disposable to us to help this influx into our region.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Billings, please.
I think the answer to that is pretty simple. Remove the barriers. I'm all about market sustainability and market capitalism. But we've got so many great local pharmacies, local medical providers, local entities, the Spark Ministries, the Kentucky River Foothills Group, that are willing to provide some of those services. We just need to find a better way to help fund them. And I think that's something we need to take a little more concerted effort when you get into communities like Powell, Estill, some of the smaller communities, that we need to find ways, as the senator said, remove those barriers, make it to the point that we have those organizations there. Let's find a way to fund them in a way that is advantageous to our communities. And again, I'll mention the Spark Ministries in Powell County, a great example. Not to mention our conservative values. I still believe that there's a lot of reasons that faith and our churches can play a role in some of those type situations. And I think we need to get back to utilizing more of that.
Thank you, Mr. Billings. All right, again, Senator Smith. Winston Churchill said, every dog has her day, but some days are longer than others. And every place in our district needs help. But as the poorest city in Kentucky, Clay City needs a little bit more help than others. How do you connect economic development, healthcare access, and workforce participation in addressing persistent poverty in communities such as Clay City and the surrounding areas? Senator Smith.
We talked about this before, using the tools that we have. This is one of the ones that sometimes what you need, they say a hand is at the end of your sleeve, is that we have a tremendous opportunity with our community college system and networks of being able to provide skilled workers. And this is where it starts. I mean, you have to be able to have the people to fit the jobs that are needed for these particular roles and not have to go outside of our area and bring them in. And I use my son as a classic example. He was a kid who went to Hazard High School, played football, and he worked at butter parlors, repairing small engines all the way through high school, but he stayed at home. And now for us to get a doctor homegrown for what we've had to go out and recruit and bring somebody in and pay and incentivize is a big win for Eastern Kentucky. So stopping and looking around us, the kids we have in our classrooms, maybe even the case of some of the people we have in our jails, of what skills can we have available that will help them stay here, because you take somebody that's a plumber and that is going to be a money maker for your community. When you look at all that they buy and all that they bring in and all that they hire and all their gas, they're a small corporation that does quite well. These are recession-proof. These will stay with us through COVID, without COVID. That is how we build the fabric of our community that can withstand some of the ups and downs that we've had in the past. But we have to look locally and take the talent and tell people it's okay to be in these roles. You're very capable of doing it, and show them that we've got the skills and the money and the training right here at home to have the jobs that we want to have for tomorrow.
Senator, thank you. Mr. Billings.
As I mentioned earlier, I think the workforce in Powell and Estill County is phenomenal. I really do. I believe that with all my heart. I've experienced it in my own business. I know the quality of people that I have that come to my business. And I think those people are within our community. We need to find ways, whether it's child care, health, child care availability, whatever it may be, we need to find ways to make sure those small businesses that have the ability to serve in those capacities, the Spark Ministries, the Kentucky River Foothills, that we're able to take those dollars and put them to good use, to where that we can continue and maintain those youthful, experienced people that are willing to stay in our community. They're there. 40% of them are driving outside of our community to do it elsewhere. We just need to find a way to keep them there. And I think that's the best way I know to do it, is through small business growth and continuing to keep those people in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Billings. Senator Smith. If reelected, what is the single most important bill, budget priority, or reform you would fight for specifically for Powell and Estill counties?
It is going to be our continued march to get affordable power and surplus power in our region and Kentucky as a whole. That there's nothing that touches every single thing we've talked about tonight like having power to do it. When your rate at your industrial park is as high as it is in Hawaii, which is completely driven on petroleum, then you know you have a problem. And so this is not something that's going to go away. We started that with Senate Bill 5 this year, Senate Bill 8, and getting serious about putting qualified people in that are going to be vetting and looking at your utility rates is a start. Having people there that have no requirements for any background is where we've been, and not having enough players on the field. Now you're going to have the best, talented, educated people you can have sitting there with their rates. We need to go after affordable rates and abundance power, and you'll see the industrial park, the hospitals, the schools, the machine shops, everything else we've talked about can only happen if we have affordable surplus power.
Mr. Billings, if elected.
I would agree with the senator with regards to power across the Commonwealth. With this specific district, I would have to go back to what I originally started at the start: water, water, and more water. Without quality water situations, I mean, we experienced that here in Estill County less than 6 weeks ago. Had a serious water issue. Thank goodness to a lot of great people that were able to get a hold of that and get control of it fairly quickly. We eliminated that. We're in my own community right now. We've got a situation at Beach Fork. We're pumping out 1.8 million gallons a day in a plant that's only capable of pumping out 1.8 million a day. We couldn't grow if we wanted to. So I think the water situation is definitely something that needs attention within the 91st district. Now, within the Commonwealth, I agree with the power situation. Those both have to kind of walk hand in hand. And I think with proper quality infrastructure, we can take care of all those problems, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Billings. And we are technically back to you on first question. At the end of your first term, if elected, what specific measurable result should voters expect to see from your service in Frankfort? 1 minute, please.
Well, I would like, again, I'm going to go back to water. I would like to see things like our water systems taken care of in both Powell and Estill counties. I would like to see a Main Street renovation here in Irvin. I've talked to several people that live down Main Street in Irvin that have talked about some renovations that we've done in Powell County and Stanton that were phenomenal. I'd love to see that happen. I'd love to make sure the MAC is taken care of and funded. I'd love to see that we make sure that the steam engine gets the funding they needed to continue with that tourism brand that they continue to grow on. So there are several things, but again, I think tourism is one of those things that would help generate our entire economy. But again, back to that infrastructure, taking care of that infrastructure. If I could ensure, I'd take a 2-year term and be tickled to death if I knew that the water situation in Estill and Powell counties could be handled during my next term. Be tickled to death and would be happy to accomplish that one goal.
Senator Smith, if reelected.
I'm sorry, what was the full question?
Sure. If reelected, what specific measurable result should voters expect to see from your service in Frankfort?
And I mentioned earlier, I love data, and I think what people are going to see is that we've already started the march here to turn corners with big projects that we've hoped for but we didn't get. And I think that's with the school. I think as we turn the page and look forward, we're going to have our new middle school, and that's going to have a lot of other effects. It's going to be a lot of growth for us here in Estill County. It's going to be exciting for the kids and the family and this community as a whole. And as you shift over to Powell, as you see us go in and reimagine Hodan Island, as we were pulling out, and we do water projects, we've got stuff in there, we've got pools of money that's going to be available. We'll work with our mayors and judges over the summer to get those applied for. But for aesthetics, for people to see, that we're open for business, that holds so high, and people seeing that and thinking that it was closed, or the park was closed, or they'd see it in the movie. We're going to reimagine it. It's going to be deeper, better, with boats on it, sailboats, the growth, the people, the industry, the picnics that are going to be coming back this summer, but also what we're going to see as far as the data for our local business and Chamber of Commerce and sales all the way around. So I'll be excited to see, and I'll predict now that you're going to see a big boost in tourism and revenue dollars as a whole, and you're going to see a lot of water projects that are going to mature very quickly over the summer and on into the fall. And I don't know if we'll be able to cure the Airbnb issue, but that's a good problem to have because it's growing. So that does give us a chance this summer to sit down with the proper people at the table and get input from locals about how they want us to address something so important to them.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I do have one surprise question. 30 seconds, please. I don't think you all will object to this. One fun fact about you, just for the audience, something that they didn't know, something they should know, something that they do know, something fun and non-business related. Mr. Billings, 30 seconds.
Oh my, I probably should let my grandchildren tell you this. I'm not sure that there's anything that's not in my life that's not an open record. being married for 40 years, 2 grandchildren. I lost a son 6 years ago. It's still one of the most tragic things in my life. But just being who I am, I'm a very Christian conservative guy. I enjoy my life. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy the communities that I'm able to serve. I had a mother and father that pushed us to serve in some shape, form, or fashion. And I just think that's the one thing that probably stands out about me. And I've told people this before. Going to serve in Frankfurt is probably a costly venture for me. But I'm at a point in my life that I have an opportunity to give something back. And I think there's 2 types of people that go to Frankfurt and try to serve in our legislature. Those that want to go to make a point, and those that want to go to make a difference. I want to be that guy.
Senator Smith, same to you.
Well, this is actually kind of funny for me. I get asked all the time, and earlier today we received the endorsement from our Teachers Association. We're very proud of that, but I always get dinged because I'm pretty solid with our teachers. I don't know that I've voted against them over the years, but a lot of people don't know that I actually taught school a very, very long time ago. I don't put it on my resume because I wasn't good at it. At Oneida Baptist Institute, and I was Barclay Moore's driver as he came back from the Red Cross. But I had made $25 a week, and I lived off campus in a trailer with 3 other guys, and it was one of the most remarkable shaping periods of my life, and it was so tough that I knew that I wasn't tough enough to be a teacher, but I've supported them in all the years that I've been down there, and a lot of people have never known that because I've just never felt that I did a good job to put my name with theirs. But I'm so proud of our educators and teachers, and I treasure their endorsement today. But for a lot of people that never knew that, just probably 95% of my friends, that I did teach many, many years ago.
Thank you. All right, and now the odds are even of 3, 3, and ending with a 3 and third final closing for 3 minutes. Mr. Billings, closing 3 minutes on the clock.
First of all, I'm very thankful for having the opportunity to be here. I think these are the type venues that are the most important venues a candidate in any office can have with their community and with the folks that they're going to serve. I'm very disappointed that we don't have a full house. I'd love to have 150 people sitting here with us in every one that's running in any type of public office. I'm very disappointed with that. But again, I'm very blessed to be in a situation in my life. I have the endorsement of 2 U.S. congressmen. I have the endorsement of our state agriculture commissioner, the endorsement of our state treasurer. I've been blessed to be endorsed by the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, the Kentucky Judicial Society, Family Health Organization. Those are all endorsements that I treasure, and they mean a lot to me. And it says a lot about who I am. And the one thing that I have that I can only say to the folks of Estill, Madison, and Powell County, my only goal in becoming your state representative is to increase the quality of life for each and every one of us. I've got 2 grandchildren that the likelihood of them being able to stay in my district are probably very slim. And I want to be able to possibly change that. I don't get to see them near as much as I want to, and would probably see them 24/7 if their mother would let me. But I really believe that increasing the quality of life in this district is our ultimate goal for what me and the senator are looking to do in our district. Giving that opportunity, I'd like to show the people of Estill and the people of Powell and the people of Madison County that that's where my heart is. That's where my conservative values are. And I will continue to do that, and I will work each and every day as hard as I work building my own business over the past 27 years and my own farming industry over the past 27 years as I do being your state representative.
Mr. Billings, thank you. Senator Smith, 3 minutes in closing, please.
As I close, I want to say this to my family here tonight, that the thing I'm most proud of to my children and my wife is that being your dad and being your husband and doing a job that you get to see the ins and outs of. This is a burden that a whole family has to carry, and that you're proud of me, because to me that's what matters the most. You see John Stacy, who's been there with me, and Derek and Hunter and so many of them that have been with me most of my life. And we've always said if we got to a point that we didn't recognize ourselves or my own base didn't think we're doing a good job, that'd be the time to leave. But I stand up here tonight and I want you to be proud of me. That's what's most important with it. And I think if you keep yourself focused, and I've worked with a lot of people in this room, families that have grown old together, that I don't think you get far off track. I think you're able to stay on what you want to do. And so we can say a lot of stuff, but what the beauty of this is in this day and age is that people can go and look and see who you are. They can go back and find funny pictures of me with my Dudley Do-Right Boy Scout hat on years ago as a Boy Scout troop leader or district commissioner or all Sunday school teachers, all the different things about us. Those pictures are archived and our voting records are archived. So you can say you'll do a lot of things and you can say this is who the person you are. But time will tell, and I'm proud of the very first bill I ever voted for in the city of Hazard, giving us the strongest anti-littering laws there. If you're going to litter, don't litter in our town, to the work we did with enhanced 911 to make sure that children could dial a number that worked, and we don't find 5 children dead in a closet dialing a number that didn't exist. And it's been a long road, but I'm proud of that record, and I encourage all those that are watching tonight to take a look, because this is an important election. But I've dedicated my life into service of my region. I think people saw that in the flood. I get teased all the time, and you've probably heard it in Frankfurt, that I have a romance with my district. And I think a lot of people think that's funny. It's not to us. In my district, if you don't have something, I'll bring it to you. If you can't get a ride in for the snow or whatever chances are, you'll see Senator Smith come and get you or bring you water, these things. And I don't want that to ever change, because when I came in, it was the patronage system. You had to go see the senator's guy, and he would help you get the things you needed. Me, you come to my house, or you probably have my cell phone, and I don't want that to ever change. I think all representatives and senators should have a romantic feel about their district, that they should want it to be like Henry Cabot Lodge. Help is your neighbor's hand upon thy gate, and I don't want us to ever lose that, because that is truly what makes America and Kentucky as wonderful as we are, and why we're a great Commonwealth. So God bless everybody tonight that's here and all those that are watching.
On behalf of the Powell County and Estill County Republican parties, I want to say thank you. Thank you to Darrell Billings. Thank you to Brandon Smith for being here tonight. And it's in nights like this, I'm reminded of the time that I spoke in front of the National Press Association in the very microphone that Edward R. Murrow broadcasted every night in the bombings of London, where he spoke out that, quoting Madison 51, Federalist 51 by James Madison, if men were angels, there would be no need for government. If angels ruled men, neither internal or external controls would be necessary. Forums put on by Madison and Powell counties like this are the external controls to not only ensure that the public is engaged, but the external controls are engaged too. While questions, and some people may ask about why we chose our questions, there are plenty of forums to ask about pro-life and other issues. This is the only forum that asks questions like this. So gentlemen, thank you for ensuring that there is time dedicated to our counties, looking at our counties, and making sure that our records do speak for itself. And on behalf of all of us, and in the words of Edward R. Murrow, good night and goodbye. Ladies and gentlemen, as a